Kyle Larson.
And let's take a look at WSIC weather. Cloudy skies today, a chance of showers and thunderstorms. The high getting up to 83 degrees. Then partly cloudy tonight with a low around 61. Then sunshine again tomorrow. I'm Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. We hope you go out and visit the fine folks at G&M Milling Company in downtown beautiful Lowray, North Carolina. That's 4000 Taylorsville Highway, 704-873-5758. Give them a call or go visit for all your livestock needs, as far as feed or seed or whatever. They'll be glad to help you out. They're really good folks. I've known them for a long, long time. Go visit G&M Milling, 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Lowray, North Carolina.
For 41 years, your Auto Plus Auto Parts store is Johnson's Parts and Supply. Johnson's Parts provides quality auto parts, helping you to get your work done quickly. Your Auto Plus Auto Parts store is located at 1112 Shelton Avenue in Statesville. Open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Closed on Sunday. Johnson's Parts, your Auto Plus Auto Parts store, located at 1112 Shelton Avenue in Statesville.
Any views expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of WSIC.
All systems are a go.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats. Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina State Representative Jeff McNeely is about to begin. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, Iredell County. Looks a little gloomy outside. We'll just have to wait and see what happens today. There might be a little rain. Who knows? But glad to be here today. Just good to be out and about. Going to be home this week, working around here in the district. Actually, just working around the feed mill, but we'll call it the district to make it sound good. So, hey, I got a caller. I think it's home ad, but we're going to check it out and see. Always interesting. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who's this?
Hey, Jeff, this is William. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, William. You looking for me or Pat?
Looking for you.
Well, dadgum.
Got a question for you.
Lay it on me right off the get-go.
I heard something on the tail end of something that Roy Cooper is thinking about passing. It won't take an effect until next year if they do. Something about a 490 tax bill concerning the overtime pay. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but really Cooper can't do anything about those are federal regulations set up as far as your time and a half and overtime and all that. So I'm not sure what Cooper – well, he can't do anything unless we let him. So he doesn't have any really executive order power anymore because we're no longer in an emergency. So I wouldn't fret it.
Yeah.
I know nothing of this, have not heard anything of this. It would probably be more of the Biden administration, though, than the Cooper administration.
Yeah, they were talking about it, and I wondered. I couldn't remember how the overtime was associated with state, local tax, or federal. I couldn't remember how it was distributed out. But so you're probably right about the Joe Biden thing. It's probably more of that.
Yeah.
But as me being a truck driver, I don't get time and a half anything over 40 hours. That the federal regulations don't allow truck drivers to get time and a half anything past 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. So it really is not going to take effect on me anyway. I was just curious. I didn't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but they're trying to figure out ways to raise money every which way they can. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't increase the tax on overtime. I've heard a rumor of that a while back, but I hadn't heard anything substantiated as this time that could change any second, though.
Well, I won't keep you any longer. I was just curious. I do appreciate what you do, Jeff, and we get this thing turned around in the right direction. It takes people like you in the local, smaller government end of things, and I appreciate what you do.
Well, I always say politics are local. Start somewhere. Yep. Hey, thank you.
That's right. Take care.
All right, thank you. Hey, we're going to jump back in the show. Hey, if anybody else wants to call, 704-873-1400. Let me know what's on your mind. Things have been kind of slow in the legislature. We didn't do a whole lot. Just passed about 112 bills in about 2 days' time last week. I do know this, though. I have Jake Johnson, Representative Jake Johnson, coming back on the show. Jake was on about 3 weeks ago. Me and him both serve on the Government Operations Committee. We call it GovOps. Makes it sound cool, you know. Anyway, Jake's the chair, and I'm on there with him, and really have a very good time, very interesting committee that we're on. Right now, we're actually looking into some issues with the SBI, and I hope you remember that from a couple of weeks ago where the SBI director was actually pressured by the Cooper administration to resign. He was appointed by McCrory administration, and he's finishing up his term now. And Roy Cooper wanted him out the door before he ended his term, but he's held his ground, and thank goodness he has. So we're going to talk more about part 2 of that, where we had another meeting and brought in some of Roy Cooper's chief of staff and Roy Cooper's general counsel, plus Director Schumeyer, his counsel that was given to him or basically appointed for him by the Cooper administration. So a lot of interesting things to talk about there, folks, and it's going to get better as we keep picking at the scab. But let's get to some really important things here. Real quick, I will say this: King Charles III was coronation this past weekend. The Emperor of Great Britain now. A lot of y'all may not remember this, but King Charles II, back in 1740, established a lot of land grants all through North Carolina. And my family, lineage of my family, actually received about a 1,800 land grant out in West Iredell from King Charles II, I think it was. I may be wrong. It could be King James, one of the two. But this is the first time one's been named King Charles since probably the 1700s. So it has a little bit of history to do with North Carolina. Just thought I'd throw that little tidbit out there. The really important thing that we did accomplish this past week in the legislature was Senate Bill 20. Now, Senate Bill 20 didn't start out to what it ended up, and that's the way it usually works down there. But what we were able to do was lower the ability to get an abortion in the state of North Carolina from 20 weeks to 12. And y'all, I know some people wanted it more restricted, and I get you. I kind of had that same feeling and flavor too, but we had to work out a compromise between the House and the Senate, and you're talking about 120 plus 50, 170 people, and in that there's 30 senators that are Republican, there's 72 Republican representatives. So when you throw it together, that's 102 people for sure. You got to get to agree on this, and so there's where we came. The thing about it, also put in $160 million to give support to pregnant women and to infants, and you know, to provide contraceptives, give state parental leave to help fund adoption. We're going to really go in there and help make that a little more, or hopefully a lot more economical, because that's what we need. And we even put in some of, for instance, some of the lawful exemptions or exceptions that can still happen. So we had all these people screaming, "You're going to let women die. You're going to do this. Blood's on your hands," which I thought was ironic. We're saving babies, and they're telling me blood's on our hands. But maybe this is what they're getting at. And the instances are when a qualified physician determines that exists a medical emergency. That's one. Two, during the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, when the procedure is performed by a licensed qualified physician in a hospital or ambulatory surgically or clinic certified by the Department of Health. Go down to 3, after 12 weeks and through 20 weeks when a woman's pregnancy, when the procedure is performed by a qualified physician is suitable, when the woman's pregnancy is a result of rape or incest, so there's a longer time period for that. And then also, during the first 24 weeks of a woman's pregnant, if a qualified physician determines exists a life-limiting abnormality to the fetus, to the baby, then you can also have something there. So it's good, but it also allows for some exceptions, which I think is what should be. Even at 6 weeks, a heartbeat bill should be some exceptions involved. So this does allow for that, but it's not just about abortion. It's more about getting these babies to go full term and then supporting this mother, if she happens to be single, in this baby to give it the best chance to make it to an adult. And, we've had these arguments. I almost just scratched my head talking to a lady down there on about a month ago who I know's very much for abortion on demand up to the last second. But she was telling me about she paid money to go down to, I think it was Kiowa Island, and spend the night on the beach to protect a sea turtle that comes out of the ocean and lays its eggs in a nest. And her job was to protect the nest, because the sea turtle goes back to the ocean, so that those eggs had a chance to hatch. And I'm scratching my head going, so you're thinking that there's really not a baby in there to the last second, but you're willing to camp out on a beach and wait for turtle eggs to hatch, and you're going to protect them. I hope y'all are thinking about that. And that's the kind of people that we're dealing with here. You're looking for logic. Not going to find it. So, it took us a while to get this done. One of the main representatives on our side, a fine lady from up in Mount Airy, Representative Sarah Stevens. Sarah had a mother die, didn't get COVID at the funeral, and she was out for about 3 weeks. And so that's one of the reasons this bill's taken a while. She was our main person who really negotiated this and worked on it a lot, and she did a great job. Matter of fact, we had all of our women on our Republican House and Senate did a fantastic job. They were the ones that led the way on this. It wasn't just us old fat white men. We actually had ladies and who've been there, mothers, grandmothers, that understand the intricacies of what goes on in a pregnancy and how blessed you are when you actually do have a healthy baby. It's just a miracle from God, and how we should cherish that. So really proud to have been in the legislature, really proud to have been able to make this vote, and we'll keep working. On a side note, oh yeah, I about forgot, Joe Biden announced he's running for re-election again. His approval rating is in the mid-30s, which, that would make me want to really be excited if I was a Democrat and want to vote for him. He will be 86 when it would be the end of his next term if we were crazy enough to elect him. So, hopefully we're not that crazy, but, you never can tell with us. One of the things that is going on right now is his not wanting to negotiate on the debt limit ceiling at all. The Republicans have put forth a proposal, and it passed the House. It was close, but it passed. A pass is a pass, a bill, and there's a lot of good things in it that they asked for negotiation, and Joe Biden said this is no go. We're not even going to negotiate. Y'all just going to raise the debt limit. So, I guess he's calling the Republicans bluff about letting us go into default. That's what I'm assuming. I've said this on here before. Joe Biden administration, a lot of the ones that have been up there on the left forever, not only can they not run a country, they can't run a country store. So here we go. In the Republican side, they're asking for some fairly normal stuff. A 1% cap on domestic spending. So we can only increase our domestic spending 1%. And Lord knows we got a deficit of $31 trillion. So, we're going to let you spend a little more, but we don't need to spend any more. No funding for the 87,000 IRS agents that are going to go out here and basically harass the people. Also, cancel the hundreds of billions of unspent COVID money that's out there, which would basically be a lot of the Green New Deal, and then repeal Biden's student loan bailouts, which is another huge amount of money. I think it's approaching $460-some billion. And then it also wants to enact what they call it the REINS, R-E-I-N-S, REINS Act. And the REINS Act was passed, and it requires federal regulatory agencies to get congressional approval for any new regulations. So this would keep the bureaucracy down, because what happens is you find inside a lot of the different divisions, a lot of the different agencies, they tend to want to make up their own rules. And with the appointees that we have in place right now, they tend to go crazy. And I've watched this happen with EPA. They've gone crazy. I've watched this happen with a couple of other Department of Energy, which I ain't sure why we have. I don't know what it does. It's about 12,000 people. I think they were supposed to figure out, how to do power cheaper in the United States, and we really ain't got there, folks, and green ain't cheaper. I don't care what you say. So it's kind of ironic that we have all these agencies, and they make up their own deal. They do. And it's amazing some of the stuff they come up with. And then when you ask them, where did you get this from? They say, well, this is departmental. We just decided this is what needed to happen. So that's not the way it's supposed to work, folks. That's why we elect people, that they're responsible to us. They have oversight. So these divisions, these agencies, just don't go off the rail and go crazy. So anyway, but like I said, none of those things even seem to make Joe Biden think, well, I could probably live without that. No, he can't live with any of this. He wants unlimited spending ability. He wants unlimited debt that we can incur. Even Bernie Sanders, I'm pretty sure, would negotiate on some of these, but he's not. Hey, just remember, though, you're going to get a chance to vote for him in 24. Good luck on that. Also, one of the tougher decisions, or not tougher decisions, but tougher problems that's getting ready to happen, and I'm sure the Biden administration is going to do a wonderful job with this like he has with the rest. The COVID restrictions, because the CDC has now said that we are through with COVID, basically, that it's still there, but it is no longer a pandemic. It is no longer an epidemic. It is just a disease that we will have from now on. And so not willing to close down the borders, not willing to turn people away, which we easily could do, and not let them seek asylum here. We easily could do this. He's going to send 1,000 of our Army troops to the border to get prepared, because there is a huge contingency waiting for the actual drop of these restrictions. And then they're going to come barreling across the Rio Grande and into the United States. And then it's going to be up to us to figure out how to feed them, take care of them, process them, do whatever. From the reports they think there will be roughly 10,000 people a day crossing for probably 2 or 3 weeks once this is dropped and once they know. So I want you to just think about that. Just think about that. Looks like we got a caller. Let's see who we got, Justin. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
Jesse, how you doing, Jeff?
Hey, Jesse, you got room for some people when they cross the border? We're going to have to put them somewhere. What you got over there? Anywhere?
I got a 2x4. Send them back the other way. It's very, very convincing.
It motivates. I hear you.
Motivates, yeah. Put the steam, put the fire under you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this thing with the trying to give birth to this second beast, giving all of our sovereignty over to the what do you know? You heard anything? They're supposed to be voting on that at the end of this month, aren't they?
On the federal side, who knows? I haven't heard. You're talking about that currency.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Well, now the currency part's dead for right now.
The power for the health, world health.
As far as I know, that is in limbo now too. Us winning the U.S. House, even though it was by a few, was a good day. That was a good day. So that's going to kind of put the brakes on that, because the House is where the funding comes from for these things. And so they won't send any money. Now, I ain't saying they won't try to pull some kind of executive order, but it won't last. It'll be unconstitutional. But, hey, that ain't stopped the Biden administration yet.
To say, what's that?
We got that document up there, and they keep trying to order toilet paper and use it. So, that's how they feel about it.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest concerns. You get back to Cooper being able to do executive orders, but he can't do it because that power's been lifted. Well, who's to say whenever, if they're going to get this world government thing started, and, they say, oops, we got a pandemic now, we got a lockdown.
Beware when flu season comes around. Beware.
Yeah, I guess when you start seeing the chemtrails.
That's when they're going to come after you. They're going to say they're going to claim the flu season's an epidemic now. So they're just looking for any reason. And the things, like I said, well, there's a proven rate of where it is. Once the primaries start happening and somebody arises from the primary on the Republican side that looks like it can actually, get people to want to in the middle to come, I think you'll see them do all kind of crazy things because they know they're getting ready to get kicked out the door. And so it'll just get worse.
It's crazy how it's like the second beast gets its power from the first.
Oh, yeah.
And
well,
it just fits that narrative just perfectly.
I mean, the next thing I was going to talk about ought to really make you feel good. The California Reparations Task Force has voted to give up to $1.2 million to each black resident. Could be as much as $800 billion total payout. Now, at
what point do you not just say that? I don't know.
I'm just ready to swap California to the Chinese to see if that'll help cover the debt. Maybe that'll get us. Maybe we'll cut it down to 15 trillion.
Nothing.
Well, they carrying a lot of our debt. They're carrying a lot of our debt.
They got many of our jobs.
They do. So they got us both ways. I don't know. But, bad thing, California didn't really come into the Union to 1850, and the Civil War was 1865. So
you seen the backlash that Bud got over that beer commercial.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, we can't come together and do something like against communism. We need to rally behind that just as much as we would as anti-communist labor products coming to this country. Why can't we, the people, get behind that and say, hey, we don't want that in our country? And that would fix a lot of things.
Well, it will. Hey, let me grab another line here.
Have a good week.
All right, man. Good talking with you. See you. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
Hey, Representative McNeely. This is Adam Bodley, one of your constituents, just in the tip of Mooresville, not too far from Troutman. How are you?
Adam, I'm good, man. How you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. It's been a little bit, so I just wanted to call and say, hey, man, I like that idea about swapping Cali to the Chinese. I think that's a good idea.
I'm working on it. Some reason or other, they're telling me it's out of my congressional powers, not congressional, I guess, representative powers. But who knows? They may fall for it.
Yeah, they're always trying to slow you down from doing the stuff that matters.
That's right.
I know here in Mooresville, everyone wants to know about that 150 widening, and I don't know if that's your area or not, but also, moving on from Cooper. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it is now. I'm one of the co-chairs on transportation in the House, and Vicki Sawyer, our senator down there, she's one of the co-chairs.
Oh, y'all are great. The two of y'all are awesome.
And so the 150 is getting ready to be the pain in the rear end, and we're still trying to see if we can't some way or another get Cornelius exit built first and see if that won't alleviate. And that's not done yet. So Lord help us when we finally start on 150. It's going to be a mess. I hate it.
I agree. I'm glad y'all are on it, though. That makes me happy.
I mean, I like I said, I just but I don't know what to do. It's something that should have been done 20, 25 years ago. But now's the time, I guess, as the old saying goes. So we'll just live through it. But anyway,
Yep. Well, I appreciate y'all doing that, and I'm sure those Lake Norman High School kids appreciate it as well. And then that new high school that's coming in Troutman, right?
Yeah, well, it'll be down around Shepherd area. It'll be down around the Shepherd area.
Oh, great. That's a good spot.
Yeah, but then the 21 is going to be slammed with traffic, and we're going to have to get 4 lanes for it. So, there you go. Such a life.
It is. Well, better to have those problems than other problems around here.
That's right. Growth. It's a good thing, but it hurts.
Well, I appreciate you talking to us and informing us and letting us call in. Always good to talk to you, Representative.
All right, Adam, you take care. All right, give us a holler back sometime. All right, see you. Yeah, folks, looks like things are going to get a little funky out in California. We'll see what they do with that. I always say don't ever form a committee, don't ever do a study unless you're willing to pay for whatever could come out of it. So for some reason or other, they decided it was a good thing to form this committee, so now they got their answers to it. And tell you the truth, they had a lot of people protest over it, and somebody come up with the economic value that it should be more like $200 million a piece if you look at 40 acres and a mule and the value then and now. I don't know about that. 40 acres around here, you can buy a whole lot, $200 million. But Land prices are going up, and it is California. Maybe they're wanting beachfront property. All right, get ready to come back and hang out with me. Jake Johnson's going to be on.
Local news and weather now on News Talk WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, and 1400 AM.
I'm Mike Jackson, WSIC News. A 16-year-old on an electric scooter died after being hit by a car in uptown Charlotte, according to CMPD. Officers said the crash happened just before 6:30 p.m. Saturday on Mint Street at Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Iredell Health System and the Iredell Health Foundation will host a cancer survivor event on June 3rd at 7 p.m. during the Statesville Owls season opener at West Iredell High School in Statesville. The event is being held in conjunction with National Cancer Survivors Day, a holiday meant to recognize cancer survivors, raise awareness of the ongoing challenges these survivors faced, and most importantly, celebrate life. And average gas prices in North Carolina have fallen 9.7 cents per gallon today, averaging $3.29 a gallon now. Now with a look at sports, here's Joe Berg.
Charlotte FC took down NYC FC Saturday night 3-2, and Denny Hamlin won at Kansas.
WSIC weather: cloudy with a chance of showers or thunderstorms today, the high near 83. I'm Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
All right, folks. We're back here for the second half of the show. Got my good buddy, Representative Jake Johnson, on the line. Let's see if we can bring Jake in. Jake, are you there, man?
Can you hear me, Representative?
I got you. I hope you got us. Hey, man, how you doing?
We are doing good. We're back in the district today, and probably going to take a couple of days here, then head back to Raleighwood.
I hear you. Well, it was good hanging out with you over the weekend. Had a good time. So, like I said, always good to hang out with my boy, my seatmate. But let's talk. Right. Let's talk a little bit. Now, and Jake, tell them where you're from. Some people don't always listen to the show. I don't know who those people are. I don't know what's wrong with them. But tell them a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get on into what's going on.
Well, I represent Polk, Henderson, Rutherford, and McDowell County out in the mountains. I'm about an hour and a half west of Statesville, about 30 minutes south of Asheville, and I actually live in Tryon. But I've got 4 counties out here, been in the legislature since 2019, and I chair our oversight committee that, we're uncovering some very interesting stuff that, Jeff, I know you sit on that committee, and I think I've heard it said that's the most fun committee you've been on. And so we have a good time trying to make sure we're getting the best out of government there.
We are. That it is, folks. I'm just going to tell you, I'm a chair of transportation. I'm a chair on the ag, but I have more fun on GovOps than any other committee because they kind of give me free rein to aggravate and interrogate people, and that's right up my alley, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's from being a boss man for the last 30, 40 years. You just want to get to the bottom of the story. But anyway, so, lay it out for us a little bit about what's going on to the listeners so they can kind of hear what we're into and what's happening.
Well, so we'll go back to the first hearing we had just briefly. We had a hearing where Bob Schermeyer, he's the director of the State Bureau of Investigations, the SBI, which is supposed to be an independent organization. They're in charge of investigating high crimes in the state, anything with fraud or very serious capital cases. So they need to be an independent agency, not tied or controlled by any political entity. So the director came forward and said, he has had some suspicions that his general counsel, which is tied to the Cooper administration, had been communicating with them behind his back, which as his counsel, they should have a duty to do what's best for him, and they are his client. or he is their client. So he came forward and gave testimony and said he felt like that there was something going on behind his back, and that there was some communication going on there that he was not privy to, which would be a very big no-no. So then, since he named the deputy or the chief of staff to Roy Cooper and Roy Cooper's general counsel, which is his head legal attorney, we brought them in to testify and kind of clear their name and tell their side of the story, because he alleged that there had been meetings, secret meetings, to where they had threatened him into resigning. He used the word and categorized it as a threat, him into resigning. And just a reminder, this is supposed to be an independent agency, and you've got a governor's high-ranking officials trying to get that director to resign so they can appoint who they want in there. So he testified on that. They come in and Jeff, you can categorize it how you want to, but they really kind of hid behind this quote attorney-client privilege,
lawyered up,
personnel privilege, saying that they couldn't talk about any of this stuff because it was tied to a complaint that an employee had filed. So they couldn't talk about any of this. But what I think they were not understanding was the client in that attorney-client privilege was the director himself. He was the client.
Yeah.
So when he waived privilege, and his attorney actually stood up in the meeting and said, "My client waives privilege. You can talk about whatever you need to talk about to get the full story out there," their lawyers still advised them to not speak to us about what was going on. So, so the steps we need to take is make sure we get that in writing and make sure that they are compelled to come talk.
And at that exact moment when Schumeyer's lawyer stood up and said that, the odor in the room changed, because I'm pretty sure they pooped in their pants.
Well, it was very interesting to see the legal argument, and between me and you, Jeff, they have about 300% more legal degrees than we do.
Yeah.
But even I know if the client waives privilege, I'm not 100% sure what privilege they kept hiding behind. They kept saying that they couldn't talk about anything related to SBI, functions since she had taken over as general counsel, but. I'm just not 100% sure what they were citing there.
Well, the dangumdest part about it, Jake, to me, is they actually put us off like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, after this come out, before they would come. We invited them the next week. We want to hear from you. Come on. And even Roy Cooper himself basically emailed, not his counsel, but Roy Cooper himself emailed us and said, "We cannot make it. We will come." So they put us off all this time, and the best thing they could come up with is, "I'm sorry, I cannot answer these questions because this pertains to lawyer-client privilege." You think you could come up with that in 10 minutes and show up the next week, but so.
Well, I thought it was very interesting that some of them chose to have their own attorneys there. Yeah. Even though all three of the witnesses are, licensed lawyers by the state bar, they all felt the need to bring their own attorneys. And, I didn't understand why that was until we actually got into the meeting and saw that they were absolutely dead set on not answering our questions. And actually at times, at times seemed to be trying to run the clock out.
Oh, yeah.
So that we couldn't get to certain lines of questioning, and I thought we did a good job of navigating that and at least figuring out what the argument was to not be willing to talk to us.
Yeah, it got so bad that Christy Jones, who's the chief of staff for Roy Cooper, went off on this tangent of how hard the SBI agents work and that we need to give them a round of applause, and she actually started clapping. And
I don't think she was fooling anyone who was watching. I think that pretty well came off as a very stretch to try to run the clock out on the hearing. And they had actually put a deadline saying they would only be there to testify for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And so it seemed like the game plan was run the clock out and then claim attorney-client privilege on anything they didn't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. You know, and we did get a little bit. I was able to pick a little bit of the scab that they couldn't hardly deny on because, you know, here's Angel Gray, who is the Director Schumeyer's appointed counsel by Roy Cooper, working supposedly for the SBI. I know, folks, y'all got to get you a game plan out here to keep up with this. It gets complicated. But Angel Gray is Director Schumeyer's attorney for the SBI, but she was appointed to this position by Roy Cooper. The director of the SBI does not have direct control over most of his top legislative, I don't say legislative, but department staff. Probably his top 5 or 6 people get appointed to him by the executive branch. So who runs a company like that where you can't pick any of your people to help you run it? Somebody else that shouldn't be even involved in your business, that you should have to be able to watch their business, gives you the people to run your department. I hope that makes sense.
And even more far-fetched than that is you've got a director who was appointed by a Republican governor, Pat McCrory, in 2016. And then you've got all these top officials under him that were appointed by really his opponent in the next election, and Roy Cooper. So you've got, and that's really where I think the news outlets have done a decent job of covering this. Is the headlines have been, you know, where do your loyalties lie when you have 2 different political parties that you're answering to, and that's really what we were trying to get to the bottom of. Is, you know, is there some line of communication behind the director's back to the administration? And at the end of the meeting, we laid out some emails that we had discovered dating all the way back to 2019. Now this doesn't show it was a once in a blue moon occasion. There's a pretty consistent line of communication between the governor's former general counsel, William McKinney, his current general counsel, Eric Fletcher, Christy Jones, the chief of staff, and Angel Gray, who is supposed to be working on behalf of the director. And when we showed those email communications, again, dating back to 2019, we laid those out, or our counsel laid those out in front of the director and said, did you sanction this communication, and were you aware of it? And he said no. And he had no idea that this email line of communication was going on between his employee that's supposed to be advising him on legal matters, and obviously it's been pretty aware that the governor would like to see someone else in that role other than Schurmeyer. And he's actually since then appointed someone different, but the legislature has not confirmed him yet. So it's no secret that he wants Schurmeyer out and somebody else in. So I don't think it's a huge jump to say that if the director didn't know about this line of communication behind his back within his own department, that's a huge problem. That is a huge problem, and not the way an independent state agency should be operating.
And now, you know, since you've brought up the emails, on top of that, we're asking, you know, were there any other communications really with the SBI from the executive branch about employee issues or about diversity or about all these things they claim Schumeyer didn't do? And she told us no.
And that's right. You bring up a good point. These people are testifying under oath that they are telling this committee the truth. And we asked, and I thought in the most point-blank way I could ask it, did you have communication that the director was not aware of? Did you go through the director like you would any other department if you were communicating with them? Was he aware of these communications? And I feel like at the very least we were misled with the answers they gave.
Oh yeah.
And it was very, very enlightening to see in black and white the communication that was there. And in one of the emails I pointed out during the hearing, they actually copied Schurmeyer on it. On one of the communications they did copy. So I said, you knew that, you know, you obviously know how to copy somebody on an email, and you know that you should be copying him on these emails. So why on these ones where you're talking about personnel complaints, why were you not copying him on it? And why, when I showed him, did he have no idea what I was talking about? So that's the underlying big question we're trying to get to the bottom of, is what was the extent of the communication? Any communication behind his back is a huge problem, but what was the extent? Some of these emails, they're referencing meetings, they're referencing phone calls, and this is all during pretty pivotal times, leading up to where we are now. So I'm a little taken aback that the way they would approach this committee and how they've not represented themselves truthfully on a couple matters. And now I think the next step is we get the director back in to confirm for the public that no, he's spoken with us about it, but we'd love to get him back in and say, first of all, I'll waive all the privilege, so they have to talk about the content of these meetings. And second, no, I was not privy and willing to sign that I was not privy to any of these communications, and it was behind my back.
All right. Now, the question I got is, do we bring back Angel Gray, his supposed legal counsel? Do we bring back Christy Jones? Do we bring back Eric Fletcher? And do we put them all in the room at one time? I mean, I think the next step is to get Schermeyer back to get rid of all this stuff of him not waiving privilege, get him back in to verify the emails to the full committee. And then I think at that point, we would need to bring them back in and say, listen, any defense you had to hide behind is now eliminated. You have to come forward and start talking about what were the content of these meetings. You've got a guy right here who we have no reason to question what he's telling us. Everything so far is checked out and been vindicated through black and white. So what was really going on in these meetings? And see if we can get somebody to come clean about this. Well, I think at some point we do have Schumacher in the room. We have the three others in the room. And let me be like the MC. I've watched a lot of Jerry Springer. I think I can get this to go off like we want it to. There may be a pocketbook slung and a shoe thrown, but I think we can get to where we need to be.
Well, anyone who had Jerry Springer metaphor to oversight committee on their bingo card is probably going to take it home today.
Anyway, I will tell you this much: we did, Angel Gray. Every time we had asked, and that's Schumacher's counsel. Every time we had asked her a question, she'd use the "I'm sorry, I cannot answer that." Attorney-client privilege, and so anyway, we finally figured out when she got hired by when she actually started. And she actually started when the SBI was in the Department of Justice back, and she got hired in 2011. But now she wasn't the counsel of the SBI then, but she was hired into the Justice Department. And so I asked her, I said, well, now, ma'am, if you were hired in 2011 in the Justice Department, I said, who hired you? And she gave us somebody's name. And I go, okay, so that was your immediate superior. But who was actually running the Justice Department in 2011? And, of course, she said, well, that would be Roy Cooper. And I said,
exactly. And it's just these continual, at some point a coincidence isn't a coincidence anymore. And, I think we've got, at the very least, enough to say there was some improper communication. And that, frankly, makes me very skeptical going forward of anybody that the Cooper administration puts forward to lead the SBI. So really the result of this hearing is, if we've got enough of what I would call credible evidence to sow a doubt on whoever the Cooper administration is sending us, if they're doing this much to coordinate with the, behind the back of the director who they didn't appoint, I can only imagine what the correlation would be there with a director they did appoint. So I really am kind of skeptical at this point of whoever the administration puts forward. I believe they've put forward the name of Chip Hawley, who is actually over I believe it's the Capitol Police or NCGA.
That's Capitol.
Capitol Police.
It's not the NCGA one, the Capitol. Yeah.
The Capitol Police. Excuse me, the Capitol Police. And I do think it's rather interesting that all of these complaints are centered around, what
Diversity.
Schurmeyer did or didn't do, but you've actually, in his hiring practices, which he was very transparent about, it looked to me like most of the top people he had promoted were 50-50 as far as white versus minority.
Or male versus female. Yeah, both ways.
Exactly. So, I mean, and that's what, I've found very interesting is, he has not tried to hide, any of these hiring practices. He's been extremely transparent. And even when he wasn't asked, and the testimony came forward and, was very forthcoming about his hiring practices, which, to the best of my knowledge, and I really, we don't know the depth of it, but really, are the base of the complaints, are his hiring practices. And that's not something that we've really seen a huge issue with. So I just thought that was interesting. And I look very forward to the next steps of this. And obviously, as the General Assembly, we have decisions to make now that he's put forward a nominee. It was actually as presumptuous as to send them to the SBI Directors Conference. Interesting, too.
Well, and know this too. I think a lot of people may be confused, and right now the board is lit up. There's a whole mess of people wanting to call, and folks, I'm not going to take calls. Call me next Monday with whatever questions you got, and we'll try to answer them out. But just for a little time, I'm not. But Chip Hawley, Capitol Police is not Raleigh Police. It's Capitol Police. And then we have our own little small group called the NCGA, North Carolina General Assembly Police, that actually work inside the buildings and work with us. And the Capitol Police are kind of over the grounds as far as the outside and the governor's mansion and stuff like that and the government buildings. And then you have the Raleigh Police who come and work the city of Raleigh. So they're different organizations. And now Chip Hawley is already involved in a lawsuit where they arrested that lady who came down there. I can't remember her name. I need to do a little more digging, but it was with that Reopen NC. And now they had already went and had protests all that week before where they burnt Raleigh, and Cooper went out and marched with them. That's where we saw him taking his mask off, as he walked with the protesters grinning, during the time you wasn't supposed to be there. And so none of them really got arrested unless they smacked a police officer upside the head. But this lady was there at the NCGA, and she was protesting all of Cooper's executive orders, and they've got a body cam video and audio of saying we're going to go out here and arrest some MFs and yada, 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 and whatever. And that was a lady police officer saying that line. And this woman happened to step off the sidewalk, kind of accidentally from what I understand, onto the edge of the grass, and they grabbed her. And she got in trouble for, I don't know if it's disturbing the peace or disorderly conduct, I think what they got her for accidentally stepping on the grass there outside of Cooper's mansion instead of staying on the pavement.
Well, then on the other side, you have Cooper with his fist up, mask off, out protesting with all these, Black Lives Matter groups and whoever the activist group was. I don't remember exactly. But protesting with these folks with immunity. And then you've got someone who barely steps out of line over on the other side. So things like that double standard sow a lot of doubt when you put forward somebody like that. And then on top of, all the allegations of collusion and things like that. And I will say the director coming forward was a huge breakthrough. But we've also since then behind the scenes have had many people reach out and say they have their own examples of how things were not handled properly with government agencies dealing with supposedly independent departments. So there's a lot to uncover.
Well, and like I said, the SBI used to be under the Department of Justice, which was under Roy Cooper. And in 2014, we saw issues with the lab, and we saw issues with kind of covering up the lack of getting the rape kits tested and the whole 9 yards, and everything was going to crap. And so we took it out from underneath them and put it under the Department of Public Safety to try to get it a little bit less political. And it still stayed political because Cooper was determined to keep his hand in the pot stirring it. The SBI has always been kind of the tool, call them the Nazis if you want to, of the Attorney General / governor, because our last couple governors have come from our Attorney General, Mike Easley, Roy Cooper. So now we've actually pulled it out in this budget here from the public safety, and it will stand on its own this way. It could have the chance to actually be an independent organization, but yet the cronyism just screams at you.
Well, and you make a good point that when, we've worked with our folks that are in the General Assembly that have experience in law enforcement, Representative Carson Smith and others. We've worked with those guys to put in some budget provisions. So, those commercials where it's like Captain Obvious and they identify the problem but don't do anything to fix it.
Yeah.
We don't want to be that. We want to, once we identify a problem, we want to take steps to fix it. So we've actually taken proactive steps to make the SBI through legislative action a truly independent agency, and that language has been introduced in the budget that we've sent over to the Senate. So, not only has this committee been extremely active in pointing out issues, we as a House have been extremely active in fixing those issues as well. So anybody can point out a problem, but we're taking some pretty proactive steps to make sure it doesn't happen again.
All right. Well, Jake, I'll tell you what, like I always say, it's so fast. Our time is up, but I appreciate you calling in. And, folks, we're going to stay on this and keep giving you the info because it's good stuff. We're going to get to the bottom.
Yeah.
All right, well, take care.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. We always like being on Mac in the morning, as I call it.
That's right. All right, man, you be good. See you.
All right, we'll see you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Folks, just want to let you know you can go on NCGA website and look under committees, go to government operations, and pull these hearings up and listen to them. Let's say a quick prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, let us be able to get to the bottom of all these issues and make sure our government is transparent. You give us wisdom, Lord. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Hey, folks, tune in next week. We're going to have a heck of a good show. It always is. Till then, take care.
On News Talk WSIC.
Hi, this is Susan. I'm excited to let you know that Lake Mountain Coffee is now available for...
Hey, you with me? Are you still there? This is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got? Well, go that lower one, I guess. Hey, can you? I can't hear nothing. No. They may be there, but I can't hear them. I ain't getting a dial tone or anything.
Hey, you still there?
Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. You still there? I think they're gone too. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. We hope you go out and visit the fine folks at G. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. We hope you go out and
For 41 years, your for 41 years.
4000 Taylorsville Highway, low rate. In downtown Beauty.
For 41 years, your Auto Plus Auto.
Hey, this is Representative Call or go selling 4000 Taylorsville Highway, low rate, North Carolina.
441.
Any views expressed in this
Term, you're thinking. I hope y'all are thinking. Hey, this is Representative.
Hey, Representative McNeely, this is
About a whole lot, 200 million.
Local
If they're wanting beachfront property. All right, get ready to come back and hang out with me. Jake Johnson's going to be on.
Coffee.
on News Talk.
Bureau. Thanks for calling WSIC. How can we help?
Oh, sorry, I got the wrong telephone number.
Okay, take care.